Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Transform IT. This is Miraj Juani,
And Patrick Pauls.
and today we've got a great episode in store for you. We've got Aaron and Michael from M-Files.
So one of the things that we wanted to talk about today are some of the acronyms and the evolution of content management solutions and how those have changed.
Yeah, and beyond that, we talk about modernization in this industry and space, and even getting into compliance, specifically GDPR, and also artificial intelligence. AI is a big topic nowadays, so we've also hit that point.
Mobility was another big factor in it today, and again, we wanted to really hit on the fact that the AI and how that's really helping them transform digitally with their product and in the content marketing space.
Absolutely. So let's begin the episode with Aaron and Michael.
Yeah, my name is Michael Dalrymple. I'm the channel account manager for M-Files. Previously, I was a channel account manager for a 3D printing company, but what really attracted me to this space was M-Files, specifically about what they're doing with content management and some of the progressive kind of views of how they're going to manage content. So yeah, I've been with this company for about 2 years.
All right. Well, I'm Aaron Howerton. I'm the Sales Enablement Manager for M-Files, covering the U.S. and Canada. The difference between what Michael and I do is I get to do a lot more talking and training on the front end, and he does a lot of the long-term sales, marketing, partner support for our channel group. I come from about 10 years in technology. I've worked in CRM space. I've worked in HR technologies. It's my first time at ECM, and kind of what got me into it as well was product is really fascinating, really interesting, and then we work with some really great partners.
It's actually really good to know that the people that we got in from M-Files, at least one of them is, his job is to talk. So hopefully the podcast will turn out decently well. All right. So with that said, one of the things that we've heard a lot when we look in the content management spaces, we see what someone likes to say is an alphabet soup of acronyms. And there's a bunch of different stuff going on. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, so people used to say enterprise content management, and then Gartner rebranded, I guess, that to a content services platform. Now, one of the things I wanted to ask y'all is if you could expand a little bit about, what the old versus the new is, why Gartner decided to change the acronym, and then we can roll into the actual branding that y'all say or that y'all have come up with the
From Intelligent Information Management.
Thank you, Miraj. Thanks for the save there. So do y'all want to kind of go in and explain a little bit of that about the acronyms and how it's progressed?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that Gartner really kind of realized was, and they kind of always kind of look at this, and I think they give it a name for it. They call it the wave. They say a wave of information is really kind of washing over users, and really what's kind of driving this is that, how much digital data we're actually consuming as a user. And I think the statistics is saying that like by the year 2020, we're going to have about 5 gigs per user for every person on Earth.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how much data needs to actually be not only consumed, but managed. And, ECM is really kind of this archaic, folder structure type hierarchy, management tool that worked great, 10 years ago. But what really happened, there's not been a lot of innovation and how people look at managing content, and then recently with things like Netflix and Spotify and iTunes kind of using and leveraging metadata, they're finding better ways to kind of manage large amounts of data, and that's really kind of what spawned Gartner to kind of recast what really kind of determines the solution that's going to get people to a digital workplace, and that's content services. So that's really kind of definition of them kind of taking an approach and saying, we need to have a better system to kind of manage all that.
It's sort of a natural evolution, right? I mean, originally when you talked about technology and data, you just had documents and that's all you've had. But now you have documents and that you have information about those documents. And so even content services is going to be outdated sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
We're going to move more toward concepts of AI and what people are doing with data, and from a consumer perspective, all the things that happen with our data that we don't even know about. Right, we're bringing that into the enterprise space to say, let's use your data, let's use it intelligently, let's make it smart, and let's let it work for you instead of being a cumbersome thing you got to deal with.
That segues into that next question is, so y'all have branded, or at least you use the terminology, intelligent information management, right? So can you tell me a little bit more about what that means and why you use that term specifically?
Sure. So when you talk about intelligent information management, you've got one model where you can put documents in a folder and you go find that folder wherever it is, and you try to sort through it, and you use it when you need it, as opposed to using information to be proactive about how you manage your business and how you're pushing forward. A lot of the times, organizations are very stratified, so lower level, upper level, the whole 9 yards, and the people that are running the organization need the information out of these documents, out of these sources, out of these contracts. They need all that things to run the business, but it doesn't always find its way there. So talking about intelligent information, we're trying to bring even the lowest level document available to the highest levels to make sure all of it's visible, all of it's searchable, all of it's reportable and accessible no matter where you're at.
That's brilliant. That's awesome. I think that's a great take, and I think it speaks to MFiles itself is why you guys were attracted to it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about your background and coming from different areas, you've seen now with MFiles the great things that they're doing. Can you tell us more about like the digital transformation, the process that you've seen, the evolution that you've seen, and how it's what it means for you as people in the industry?
Sure. Yeah, what I'm seeing out there is that there's a lot of companies that are interested and invested in that whole digital transformation, which is this long journey that's going to take them to this digital workplace. Really what they're struggling with is, what's the vehicle that's going to get them there? What solution is really kind of take them to the next level and really kind of make sure that they're efficient and stay efficient with all this new digital data they got to manage. And, one of the things that I've really seen is that a lot of companies are right at that cusp where they're kind of teetering at the fact or at the point of where they're almost inefficient, but they're kind of right in that gray level.
Yeah.
And really they're kind of getting forced to kind of adopt technology, whereas before, 5 years ago, they said, oh, well, it'd be nice to have, but it's not a necessity. And we're kind of seeing, companies now saying that it's becoming a necessity to actually have a solution.
All right. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of touch on is that and some of your training and some of the opportunities that we see for these new generation management solutions. We're talking about mobility. Everyone wants mobility. We talk about digital transformation, and it goes hand in hand with mobility. It's been around for a while. People talk about it, but you see that as a must-have with any new technology or implementation.
Yep.
So can y'all talk a little bit more about content management and mobility and some of the things that kind of how not necessarily your platform, but those content management platforms would actually bring the mobility piece into it?
So mobile access is huge, right? We know recent stats show that up to 50% of internet traffic in America is all mobile traffic.
Yeah.
So when you're thinking about that, how is that impacting every organization from the smallest to the largest, right? We're traveling across the country to do business. We're constantly looking at Wi-Fi hotspots and how do you access things, where they are, how do you know they're secure? Content services plays a hand in that, right? It helps connect all these different environments. I've seen and been a part of a lot of organizations that have their CRM in place, they have their ERP in place, they've got some sort of network folder structure, and for some reason content management has gone by the wayside for these very large organizations. Seeing what we can do and what content services can do to bring all that together, to kind of give you a resting place for all that information, and then push that out to your mobile device so that no matter who I'm in front of or who I'm talking to or where I'm at, I can get to the things that I need. I can access those things securely, and I can make sure that I get the most recent versions back and forth without confusing anybody.
Yeah.
So our basic takeaway there is that these platforms allow mobile access to documents and content that people may not have had beforehand. And he hit the main point there: security. Everyone always asks about security.
Yeah.
We won't go into the details there, but securely access on your mobile device.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I kind of want to shift gears a little bit here. So we talked about some of the transformation. One of the things that a lot of our customers talk about is, industry events and things that kind of shape and change the way we do business or force that innovation. Now, recently, there's been some legislation in Europe that just came out that really kind of hit a lot of the technology companies really hard. So I have it written down as an acronym of GDPR. Can you guys speak to that a little bit, and a little bit about how content management solutions can help with that compliance piece?
Sure. So a lot of these, like we deal with a lot of users and companies that really need to kind of meet regulations for compliance of all types, whether it's FDA or HIPAA or ISO 9001. GDPR is no different. Really, it's just this regulation of data can't leave the country of where the data exists, and really they have to prove that, to a certain extent. And what our system does is pretty much tracks all kinds of different users and what they're doing in the system, where the data resides, who has access to it, how it leaves the system. So it's a really I would say it's a solution that can be trackable and measured to a point where you can meet GDPR requirements and make sure that users who are not supposed to see information doesn't see information, and users that need to have access to information readily has access to it.
Yeah, that's pretty great. So you talked about auditing in a sense, right? And covering tracks and making sure that if there's any event, if there's an audit, basically, that's covered. Would you say that that's one of your key factors of mFile's growth? Is that something that stands out above your competitors, or can you even speak about other factors that you think?
Sure. Yeah, I would say that a lot of other systems do have this trackable audit trail history, and then also has the security measures that mFiles does. I mean, that's really not a big game changer, but what I would say that really is attractive about our solution specifically, and some of the other up and coming solutions, is that we make it very easy for the users and the admins to really kind of manage all of that. So, a lot of times when you're looking at solutions in the industry, especially with a lot of the larger enterprise solutions like OpenText or Highland or other solutions like that, you really need to have a dedicated admin to really kind of run and manage all of that. This is not a user that's in the system, but somebody solely just running that solution. And that's not something that's needed for a lot of these newer solutions that are more fluid and dynamic, and make the management permissions and security a lot easier, and especially with the deployments as well. It's a lot smaller deployment cycles.
All right, so Aaron, earlier on, you said something that all of our listeners love to learn about, AI. So what I want to do is I want to give you a little bit of background. Okay, so first, one of the reasons why I bring up the GDPR instead of some of the other things like HIPAA or SOX compliance or something like that is y'all are an international company, right? Where are you headquartered out of?
Tampere, Finland.
So Finland. So, and you have a presence in how many countries? About 100 plus?
Yeah, we have clients in over 100 countries at this point.
Okay. So with that said, the solutions here, you really are a multinational company, and you run into a lot of different things. I wanted to kind of give that background. I probably should have done that a minute ago, but we got it out of the way now. Now with that said, you mentioned AI earlier, and if I remember correctly, when we were in previous discussions before the podcast, y'all talked about you saw a need for AI to the point where you actually purchased an AI company. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's been really impressive to me, and I've not been with mFiles as long as Michael has, I'm in my first year, but they really talked about this when I came on board, and I've got to speak with some of these team members, and we already had AI in the mix. We have what we call this intelligent meta layer, which allows us to connect to other repositories like a Box or Dropbox or OpenText or Highland, and search that data inside of our system. But with the intelligent meta layer, we're doing it intelligently, right? That's the key word. And we're using AI and leveraging AI to bring value from those documents, even though they're not stored in mFiles. So the acquisition of this company and the addition of this team to our team is about leveraging AI and continuing to move that forward down the road. When you talk about intelligent information management, go back to that conversation, one reason that information management's always been hard is because it relies on the end users to do so much work to make sure the information is accurate. But with intelligent content services, we can help take care of some of these things for you. So when you throw a document in the system, we can start to make recommendations like, hey, that looks like a contract for this client with this kind of deadline, with this kind of money involved. Users are doing less work. Now, what I see, this is me personally, when I get to talking about this and visit with the AI guys, I see the potential for a migrationless system that you can drop data in, teach it a few documents, and now everything can be moved over through AI, automatically classified, automatically organized. You're not wasting a whole lot of energy and time building taxonomies and structuring things. You can just add stuff to mFiles and we'll do it for you. To me, that's the future. I can't make any product commitments, don't make any purchase decisions based on what I just said, but that's what I get excited about, is I can see the potential for this to really change how we use information in all businesses.
And one of the things I love about what we're doing with AI, and it's different than a lot of industries when it comes to automation, is that you think of automation like, I grew up thinking about automation and robots and manufacturing, and that replaced a lot of jobs and things like that. But really what we're doing with AI is not really replacing jobs, but really kind of enriching the workers so they focus on the things they want to work on and that are important, and less focused on the things that are like data entry and things that you don't want to do as a
things
worker.
that really matter.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Focus on the things that really matter.
Yeah.
So
And you also take the human error piece out of it when you have the AI working in the background. And another thing that that you kind of mentioned and we glossed over there, but you're talking about user acceptance and compliance, which is another major piece that we've seen here, even in a smaller company like SmartBridge. We come up here and we roll out a new structure or policy or procedure, and you have 10, 20, 30% of the people adopt it initially, and then maybe after a couple months or even a couple years, you'll have 60 or 70% of your people, but there's still people using old stuff from the old way, long times after the changes have been implemented. And automating that process and leveraging that AI, I think, will really help with that. So making it easier for the user to do the right thing by not making the user have to do anything.
Exactly.
I believe I heard that there was around 90% user adoption. Do you
98.
think 98?
Yeah.
Even better. Is AI a part of that factor? Or is it already being used, and that's that number that you get from that?
Yeah,
or?
so we're blazing the trail when it comes to AI. Not a lot of solutions are actually using it right now, and I think that's going to change as time goes on. But really what we're kind of seeing is that we already started selling it to our existing customer base, and they're reporting back to us that they're seeing 60 to 70% efficiency increase because they're not actually manually putting in this information in. So it is a solution that a lot of people love, and it just makes it a lot better.
That's amazing.
Yep.
All right. Now that we talked a little bit about the cool stuff that y'all are doing, AI, user adoption, and a lot of these other pieces, even security a little bit, and mobility. One of the things that I wanted to do to kind of round us all off was discuss, what do you really see happening in the content management space in the next 5 years or 7 years or 10 years? Again, you touched on that briefly, but what do you see as far as trends and adoption and things that will become standards or you'll have to kind of move or transform around?
Yeah, I would say that a lot of solutions are probably going to be forced to kind of do more of the metadata focused approach, like a lot of other systems where they're not really kind of focusing on the where. Where is my file? Exactly. What solution is it in? It's more about having a repository agnostic solution, kind of using the metadata to kind of really leverage things like security and permissions, and really kind of being able to give the users different ways to find their data. So that way, naturally, if you think of data in a different way, maybe you're in a different role. It just gives you the ability to find the information faster. I would say a lot of the other things that you might see is just more of an open platform, because we're trying to go to this repository agnostic approach. A lot of these closed off systems will have to open up their systems because they'll be left behind in technology, because it'll be looked at as kind of a knock to them that they don't work with another system. And really that's what the users want. They don't really care where the data is. They don't want to have to jump in through hoops to access it. They don't want to go to different solutions. Really to the user, they just want to be able to access it quickly. They don't really care what solution they're using.
Yeah, I think you're also going to see a growth in the adoption of enterprise content management or content services, however you want to say it. It's mainly because it's becoming necessary. For a while, organizations could live with a CRM, they could live with an ERP, and their documents could live somewhere in the middle. It didn't really matter. But as we're adding, as Michael talked about, more and more data, more and more documents, more and more information.
It's overwhelming.
It's overwhelming. These organizations are going to get flooded. They're already suffering. And I think those pain points will become more clear. You're going to see a growth in adoption of these platforms. And again, we have an open AI, so we have the ability already to think, we want to be able to plug into the systems you're using to be really flexible. That's going to be really important, and you're going to see more of these things driving behind the user. So end users may not really know who we are. They may not see it a whole lot, but they're definitely going to feel the benefits of what we offer.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have today. That was a great episode we had with Michael and Aaron from M-Files.
I just want to say thanks for having us. This has been a lot of fun. I think this is an innovative approach to letting people know and being useful in the community, especially when it comes to ECM. So thanks for having us on.
We enjoyed doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Give us a like and a share wherever you found the podcast. You can follow SmartBridge on Facebook, Twitter, hit our website, and most of the other major social media platforms.
Yeah, also check out our blog. This is Mirage Juwani
and Patrick Pauls.
Go out and create something exceptional.